We're so happy that you all are with us today for Pandemic Parenting. We have psychologist Dr. Enoch with us today from Jewish Family and Career Services to talk about emotional regulation. And we are super excited to have her here and all of you here so that we can share and have this space to really share and feel supported in who we are as parents during this very unique and challenging time. And so my name is Julie Zeff, and I work at Jewish Family and Career Services. I have 3 kids, ages 11, 13, and 15, who have all been campers at In the City Camp. And at one point, and this is a really wonderful partnership, this group series that goes all until July 31st, and we hope you'll join us down the road for some more Friday groups. And it's this wonderful partnership with In the City Camp, Jewish Family and Career Services, and Jumpstart. So we are excited to have you all here, and we're on Zoom, and I see everyone is muted, which is great, and we do encourage you to share and take yourself off mute down the road. There'll be plenty of time for that. So to begin, what I thought we could do is, so often during this time, it has been challenging for many of us as parents, and kind of really stretching ourselves, and we're being pulled and tested, if your life is anything like mine, in many different ways, and as humans and as parents. And sometimes it's hard to really focus on all those things that are going well for us or our celebrations. So I wanted to just begin this time by all of us here sharing, if you're comfortable, and sharing a celebration, a win. It could be from this morning, it could be from last week, it could be from the past 3 months. So something that you want to celebrate, that you are excited about, and that's considered a win for you. So does anyone want to start?
I'll start. Oh, go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to say 2 quick things. One, everyone in my family over this time has become much better bike riders. We've gone on so many bike rides. We live in a really hilly neighborhood. And just the other day, we were out and I was on one of the hills that used to be really tough a couple of months ago. And now I'm like, oh, this is not really that bad. Like, we're all just, cruising along now. So it's been kind of nice that we've been able to get out and get some exercise and do that. And my daughter it's been one of her favorite things to do, is bike ride with all of us. She also told us the other day that she really hopes that school doesn't start back in the fall. She just wants to be home with us, homeschooling, which was really sweet and terrifying at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not qualified to be a teacher, but it was sweet that she just wants this to continue, I guess. So she's enjoying her time with us. It's, so that's beautiful. Kind of a win.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. Thanks for sharing, Angie. Yeah.
So I guess I'll go. I think one of our major parenting wins has been how much more reading and the vocabulary my 4-year-old has gleaned, and her interest in science. And I've seen things that I don't think I would have ever been able to notice and be present for in her development over the last few months. She is watching copious amounts of television while I work, but we've made conscious choices about what that is, and I've got to watch her grow up in a way that I haven't since she was an infant. So I think that's our parenting win more than
beautiful. Anything. Yeah, I see that smile on your face. Yeah, the glow. Great.
Well, I will kind of add on to what Angie said. We've been doing a lot more outdoor activity. My husband and daughter have been riding their bike, and I've been out doing more walking. We've done a lot of family game time, more so than we probably did before, which has been really nice.
That's great. Yeah. Thanks, Suzanne. Great. And I think for our family over here, we've had family dinners like every night, and that has been such a win for me. They now eat and try and get out as quick as possible. I think it's a lot of family time, but I love it. Family dinners, we haven't had that for years as they're getting older especially. So that's been a huge win. Great, yeah. Anyone else want to share anything? Okay. So wonderful. So it's great that we can celebrate. And I think especially when times are challenging or we find ourselves in tough situations, which we all will, whether it's COVID time or not, it's so important to remember these wins. And there's something about having a space to consciously think about them and feel them, and then even to share them, right? There's a way that when we can share them, it's like we're double celebrating it. It's like different than just thinking like, oh, I love the fact that we're outdoors more. So just kind of getting a sense of this, like in our bodies, what's it like when we share with each other? There's some way that it really kind of lights us up in a different way and kind of moves that sweet, special energy of celebration. So thank you all for sharing. So let's head into one more section of sharing before we get to hear from our wonderful presenter today. And this is just to kind of help focus us a little bit on, so while we had some celebrations, I'm sure that there are some things that you guys are wanting more of for yourself, for your family during this time. Some things that you want to work on or shift. Maybe you would call it an intention or a purpose or just kind of a main aim, something that you want to focus on shifting or making better or different. So maybe we could, if you want to just take a moment, maybe even just take a breath for a second and kind of think of what would that be? What would you like to shift in your family, for you? It can be in any of those realms, and we'll kind of hold that intention as we move forward with our presenter and as we finish the group today, just to hold the space for what do you desire, most desire more of. Is anyone willing to start us off with that?
Sorry, I got interrupted by the said 4-year-old.
Oh, yes. Plenty of permission for that here.
I'm going to have to, I'll be right back.
Great.
I guess I'll start. We have an only child, and while we have really enjoyed spending a lot more time with her, she tends to not really want to go play by herself and do things on her own. So trying to figure out how to encourage that. Obviously, it's a little more challenging with COVID and not being able to do play dates and those types of things that have kept her a little more entertained. We try and get her out in the neighborhood and maybe riding bikes with her friends and just outside a little bit, but just trying to figure out ways to encourage that and kind of lighten our frustration when we both have things that we need to do and can't play all day long.
Yeah, great. So encourage her independence and yes, like being able to occupy herself a little bit more. Is that it? Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm nodding along because I'm in the exact same boat. Only child. We, we overcompensated a bit. We got a new puppy to try to help with that. Something we had been thinking about doing anyway, just the timing was right. And actually this week we were fortunate enough to be able to send her to an in-person camp. And in the 5 days she's been there, we've already seen a world of difference in her, from the regression we've seen in her the past couple of months, her loss of independence. And again, even when we were telling her, it's okay to go ride your bikes outside with some of the kids in the neighborhood, she's like, no, I don't feel like it. Like, we've seen this tentativeness. And maybe it's because we watch a little too much news in front of her, and so she's afraid. So balancing that, right? Trying to give her that idea of, you can be safe and still do these things, and we're okay with that, and we want you to do that. And again, just with her being an only and wanting to play by herself, we've done a lot of family game nights too, but then there's time to stop the game, and mommy and daddy need to do something else, with both of us working full time. So that's been a challenge.
Yeah.
Real similar.
Right. Yeah, right. So some independence and some balancing, a little more balance with her having more independence, and then also this sense of kind of exploring maybe some of her hesitation, and is there some fear there maybe, and how to support her with that and to ultimately encourage her to be able to be in the world. Did I get it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, anything else you'd add that I missed?
Just we want some sense of normalcy back, but that's not happening for a while. So
yeah, but you want it. Let's hold that. Yeah.
That's probably maybe the overarching challenge here, right? Is that what are we now? What month are we in now? March, April, May, June. I mean, we're 3 months in, 4 months in, and we're thinking about what does this school year look like? What does August and September look like? And, normally we're just out shopping for new school clothes and getting school supplies and like looking forward to who our teacher's going to be and thinking about, do we need a new lunchbox and, that kind of stuff. And all that's out the window right now. We're not having any of those talks. It's about, is she schooling? Is she gonna be at home with me still working full time and trying to do that balance and that guilt of, I can't help you with that right now. I'm on a conference call. Or is it safe to send her back? Cobb County just announced yesterday, you get to choose. What a crazy decision to have to make. On the one hand, it's awesome they have choice, but on the other hand, like, wow, how do you make that choice? Like, I'm really hoping APS doesn't give me a choice, and I'm just gonna have to live with what they tell me, because I don't know if I can handle another decision in so much uncertainty. I think that's like the overarching, like this uncertainty of like, when does this end? Does this end? Like, can we go to the beach in a couple of weeks? Is it safe to go to Florida? I don't know. I don't know seems to be the answer to everything right now. And that's not a comfortable place for a parent to be. We want to know and make a decision and be like, this is what mommy and daddy decide, and we're doing this and we feel comfortable with it. Because usually we know enough to make that decision. And right now we're like, that, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So I hear just such a desire for how to live, like a sense of questioning, like, how do I live with the I don't know, and some ways to make it easier to just be here in the unknown and uncertain time that we're in. Right. And so can anyone else relate to that? I definitely can relate to what you're sharing. Yeah. So let's put that on the list of an intention that you are holding to try and get clear about how to sit with the unknown. And it sounds like make good decisions for you and your family, right? And trust yourself. Yeah. Okay.
I think also, along with what Angie said, like, we are having to make decisions that I am ill-equipped to make. Like, we're also leaving town in a week and a half. Is this a good choice? Do we have to eat every single meal in our rental house because nobody in any vacation location is paying any attention to social distancing? They all talk about the people that are there, that no one's wearing masks, and the restaurants are packed, and the grocery stores, you wouldn't know there's a pandemic going on. Is it still safe to take my kids? Like, weighing their mental well-being, just a change of scenery in a swimming pool for a week versus their medical, like, health and mine, like, all of those pieces where we have to make decisions that I am definitely not equipped to make. And it doesn't matter how much you read, there's 20 different opinions out there. So I don't know what I should be doing.
Yeah, that's great. So Laura, thanks. Is there a desire or intention you want to hold for your time on the call with that then?
I guess sort of like the making of decisions you're not equipped to make. I guess, like, I don't know how to put it in words.
Yeah,
but
like confident, like more confidence in being able to make these decisions.
Being okay with whatever decision I make. There's pros and cons to it. I just have to go forward with some plan.
Yeah, so some movement, confidence in some movement, and making decisions and moving forward with more confidence. Does that
sure.
fit? Okay, great. And I see a couple other people have joined us as well. So we're just going around and sharing an intention that we want to hold, something we want to shift or in our lives or want more of, and just kind of name it before we head in with our speaker here. Does anyone else want to share? Alexandra,
I think my intention going into this pandemic, not that any of us had any intentions going into the pandemic, but was to try to find a way to be more present as a parent. That I think prior to the pandemic, we were pulled in 100 different directions. And yeah, I'm still working full-time from home and my kid is watching lots of TV. But to remember my own boundaries, that when I'm done working for the day, I'm done and it's okay to be done. And then it's family time. And I think I've lost a little bit of that in the last couple of weeks. So I think my intention for this is like, how do I shift back to intentional parenting and intentional presence?
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, intentional parenting and intentional presence. Okay, great. Anyone else want to share? Okay, well, let's hold all of that. We are all in this together. It sounds like we can all relate to each other's intentions and main aims here. And I bet we will get some nuggets of wisdom from our wonderful guest speaker here today, one of JF&CS's psychologists, Dr. Enoch, and she's going to share with us a little bit about herself and the work she does, and then also about emotional regulation and how we can use that to support our children. And I bet we can even use that to help ourselves. So thank you so much, Dr. Enoch, for being with us. We're really excited and happy to have you here with us.
Hi, everyone. Morning. So just give you a little bit of my background. I started as a school psychologist and worked in the Cobb County school systems for a number of years, and then went back and got my PhD and was in private practice for 15 years. And now I'm at Jewish Family Career Services. I'm a child and adolescent psychologist. And I work with itty bits all the way through college and on a host of different issues: children, teens, young adults, parents, teachers. So I run the gamut, and I won't tell you how many years I've been doing this. But that's just a little bit of my background. So, I know some of you were saying that, you're getting a chance to spend more time together as a family. And there are good points and bad points to that. Of course, the good points are that I have, in my practice, seen a lot of kids and parents say that stress level is down. Now, I know if you are working parents, you've still got that stress, but the stress of having to run kids all over the place, of kids' activities. So the kids are feeling like, yes, they are missing their friends, but at the same time, I've seen their stress level go down because they're not having to worry about all the homework and all the extracurricular activities. And not that they're not wonderful, but one of the things that I hope we take from this, at whichever point we're able to go back to whatever normal is going to be, that we kind of step back and realize that maybe being involved in tons and tons of activities and having every moment scheduled, that maybe we need to step back and say, we need to really make sure we have family time in here. Because I think that's one of the things that we have lost along the way. Not that we don't do any of it, I don't think we do enough of it. So this has really made us take a pause and step back and say, wow, this is kind of nice. And I've had so many kids tell me, I've got to spend so much more time with my parents and my siblings, and which again is good and bad, and and just doing family activities. So again, I think stepping back and just not forgetting that when it goes back to that normal. So there's no question that this has been a difficult time for all of us. This was thrown on us, and no one in their wildest dreams could have expected this and the consequences of it. So I think that emotions are all over the place. I think that you have to expect meltdowns, both in your children and maybe in yourselves, because it's a roller coaster. And we're still going through it because now we thought we were getting to a more even, number of cases, and now we're seeing spikes. So we're back to that uncertainty and loss of control as, what do we do with this? And the kids are feeling the same thing. So, you are going to see regression. Hopefully things have leveled off a little bit at this point. What I'm noticing is that now that summer has hit and kids are being able to do a little more social distancing and see some of their friends, that it seems to be, their stress level seems to be going down. But again, with all this uncertainty now of, we don't know, is it okay for us to, a lot of people have planned vacations to the beach and to the lake, and what do we do now? So there is, unfortunately, this uncertainty again because of what's happening with the number of cases going up. So kids and teens show stress in lots of different ways. They may be clingy, they may be withdrawn, they may be agitated. Teens are certainly more irritable. So, I think you should expect all these emotions. And I always like to tell parents that because, there may be certain things that your kids do at any time, but it is heightened when we are going through something like this. So I think what is normal is different than it was in other times. So I see it as there are 4 things that kids lost, especially the kids that are not being able to do as many of the summer activities and the camps. There's a loss of independence. There's a loss of social connection. There's a loss of purpose, and there's a loss of fun. And it's not that you can't create these things, but camp is a very different experience. And kids learn all of these different skills by going to camp, whether it's, day camp, whether it's a 1-week camp, whether it's overnight camp. These are the skills that the kids learn. And yes, we can try to recreate them, but it's still not camp. It's what one of you said about the fact that, your daughter's gone back to camp this week and what a change it's made. And, that's why. But I do think at the same time, and I know you guys were talking about, kids being more dependent upon you, that I think this is a really important time, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, about teaching kids some independence. Again, because when they go to camp, these are the skills they learn. So we need to try to recreate some of that at home. The same thing with the fun, which you're, doing as family activities. But again, I also think the kids need to be able to do things by themselves, be able to create that fun also, because we've become a society of, kids wanting stimulation and expecting stimulation all the time. So I think it's okay for them to get bored, because when they get bored, they will find other things to do without you always having to be involved in it. Not that you can't make suggestions or have things there for them to do, but you are not their playmate all the time. So I want to, I'm sorry, I'm not the most tech savvy. I don't know how to share the screen, so I'm going to show this to you. Okay, and I'll go through it with you so you don't have to read it. So there are these 4 zones of regulation, or zones of emotions. And I think it's important for parents to understand these. And I actually added a 5th one to it. So the blue, I'm sorry guys, The blue is the inactive space. So it's when they're sad, it's when they're tired, it's when they're lonely, it's when they're bored. Green is the go space. So that's when they're happy, when they're calm, when they're excited. The yellow space is the caution space. So that's when they're starting to get a little bit of loss of control. You're starting to see some irritation, some frustration, some worry. It could be either one of those emotions. So you're starting to see that rise. Then I add the orange space, and the orange space is the decision space. So that's the space in which they have a chance, and you have a chance to be able to work with them on being able to stay in the yellow space rather than getting to the red space. And the red space is the out of control space. So that's when there is nothing that really can be done at that point, except for them to be able to walk away. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but there's nothing else that can be done at that time. So I'm going to show you something else. Okay, so can you see that? Because I can't, can you see that? Okay, so the first two, the balls are equal. The red is emotion and the black is reasoning, okay? That's ideally where we all want to be, because we may have emotions, but we are still able to reason and be able to solve the problem. If you look at the bottom, the emotion is much bigger and the reasoning is much smaller. And I'm showing this to you because we try sometimes when kids are in that red space, we try to reason with them. And think about yourselves. If you're really angry, do you want someone coming and continuing to talk to you about alternatives or what you need to do, or why aren't you doing this? None of us like that, and kids don't either. So what we have to do is we have to bring the emotion down first and forget the reasoning until the emotion is brought down. So there are 3 ways in which I like to bring the emotion down. And again, to me, the first and foremost is that they need to get out of the situation. As long as they stay in that situation, tempers are going to stay high, or anxiety is going to stay high. So they have to be removed from the situation, guided to be removed. And I like to call it a chill out space. It's not time out. It is a space where they can go and there's things there for them to do. So I put it into 3 categories: relaxing, distracting, and sensory. So the relaxing activities are, things you think of. It's the breathing, it's the tense and release that you can do through your whole body. It is guided imagery. And so what I do is I have the kids draw a scene. I don't care how elaborate, what it looks like. I'm not looking, we're not looking at their drawing, but I tell them to find a relaxing place. A lot of the kids pick the beach. And so then I make them go through their 5 senses. So what do they see? What do they hear? What do they feel? What do they see? What do they smell? And so they create this scene, and then I go through it with them, with some of the breathing and having them visualize the scene. There are some great online meditation and imagery programs. Headspace is one of them. There are tons of these. There's tons of yoga, there's tons of meditation, there's tons of this guided imagery. And I think it's really important for the kids to start to learn this. You typically need to do it when they're not in an emotional state at first, because otherwise they're going to tell you, I can't do this. This doesn't work, I can't do this. And for some kids, the relaxing activities are not the best way. For some kids, it's the distracting activities. So it's some sort of movement activity, reading, art, music, anything that they like to do that will be distracting for them. So they can start to not be focused on what it is that they're worried or they are angry about. And then sometimes you can go back to the relaxation. So it depends on your kid. Some of the relaxation works better, some the distracting. The third piece of this is the sensory. Some kids feel out of control and they need the touch. They need some boundaries. So you being able, if you can, and if you have a kid like this, you can hug them. You can rub their arm. Just some sort of sensory sensation for them. You can do a sensory snack. And what I mean by that is that things with texture and things with crunch, and whatever sort of snack that you can do that gives them that sensory sensation. Deep pressure. Some of the kids like for you to do, some just, more deep pressure on them, or, a massage. And you don't have to do a lot of it, but it's just giving them, it's giving them some control, and you start to see some of this emotion go down. Putty, clay, slime, which I know everybody loves. Any of those sorts of things where they can be doing it with their hands. And again, it's just a way to get that emotion down, but they need to do it through a sensory way. So the three things are relaxing, distracting, and sensory. And you can use a combination of all of these, but you have to know your kid. So you have to try some of these and see what works with them, and they'll tell you. Other, ways to express emotion, drawing and throwing it away, scribbling with crayons, tearing up paper, stomping bubble wrap. And then I like to use this glitter jar. So you basically fill a glass jar with water and glitter, and you have them shake it up, and then they turn it over, and they watch the glitter go down as you are saying to them about, okay, I want you to take some deep breaths and calm down and just sit for a minute and just kind of watch the glitter go down. And they may want to do this 2 or 3 times, and that's fine. They love making these glitter jars. 3 important recommendations. Avoid power struggles. I promise you, you are not losing if you walk away, if you say, you know what, looks like we can't talk about this right now. Maybe we both need to go to our chill space and come back and talk about it later. We say and do so many things that we regret if we do it in the heat of anger. And the kids the same way. So you're much better off if you guys part ways. Same thing with siblings. You part ways, and then you calm down and come back together. Prepare children for changes or transitions. Some kids have a hard time with this. So I don't care how many times you have to do this, but you need to let them know that there's going to be a change, or we're getting ready for a transition. Worst thing you can do is walk up to a kid and say, okay, stop now, and because we need to rush and we need to go do this. Most kids can't handle that. We can't handle that if we're in the middle of something. So it's the same thing. So it's making sure that you tell them ahead of time, whether it's 30 minutes before, 10 minutes before, 5 minutes before. now I need you to stop. I've given you a warning. I need you to stop, and let's move on to the next thing. Okay. Sometimes you need to do that a lot, but especially if the kids are getting towards that. You're hoping that they're not going to get to the red zone. You're hoping that you're going to catch them in the yellow zone, and so you can then reason with them better. Teach children to use their words. And you guys can be great models with that. So again, if they're in red, you can't do this. But if they are in blue, green, or yellow, you can get them to say, I'm frustrated. I'm worried. I'm sad. I'm happy. So as much as you can, get them to use their words. And again, you guys can be great models with this. I don't know if any of you have teens, but one of the things I recommend with teens is you do what's called a drive-by, so that you kind of assess where they are emotionally. And again, they'll let you know. And then whether you can have a discussion with them at that point or not. So you're literally driving by. You can stop if they're ready. If they're not, you continue driving by. Okay. Okay. So activities for you to do with your kids. And I'm assuming that you're doing most of these, but this is a refresher. That you are connecting and having some positive bonding time. And what I mean by that is that it's as a family, it's mom having some time, dad having some time to bond with the kids, especially if there's more than one, then they really cherish, I don't care for how long it is, it doesn't need to be that long, they really cherish that time together. So it's really important to have that. Give extra support. At this time, again, kids are more emotional, so you may need to give them more support right now in a positive way. Create structure. Structure, structure, structure. I know this is hard because they're not going to school, they're not going to camp. And no, you can't have them be structured all the time. You don't want to. But kids need a basic structure because without it, they feel out of control and they can't manage it themselves. So you have to make sure you have some sort of structure. Get moving. Movement is so important. When I hear that kids are sitting in front of whatever it is for hours during the day, then, that's one of my very first things that I say, you have got to get the kids moving. Now, a caveat. Right now, we are all giving our kids more social media, more TV, whatever it is, we are. And you know what? That's okay. Because, there's nothing going on. So it's okay if you have to give them more of that. There's no set time, amount of time right now. So don't beat yourself up over the fact that you're saying that your kids are having more, screen time at this point. Within moderation, it's okay. Practice self-care. So I'll talk about this a little bit more when I talk about activities, and stay calm. If you guys are losing it, which we all do, you've got to walk away. Because if you don't, what you're going to see happen is your emotion's going to rise and your child is going to rise and yours is going to rise and theirs is going to rise. So you have to be able to be the one to say, we need to take a break. Listen and be empathetic. Sometimes kids just want you to listen to them. They don't want you to solve it. they don't want your suggestions. They just want to talk. So listen and be empathetic. Okay, so talking about structure. So again, this is not something you do from 1 to 2, 2 to 3. That's not what this is. This is a structure of activities to do. Self-care. So again, this is, all what things can they do for themselves, and making sure that they're brushing their teeth and showering and those sorts of things. Outside time. I think it's critical that we all have some outside time. I don't know about you guys, but I find it hard to sit like this all day long. So we need to make sure that everyone has some outside time. Creative time. This is a time in which, again, I said to you that it's okay for kids to get bored, because you want them to be doing something creative. I don't care what it is. And there are, I don't know if all of you guys have heard of OutSchool.
Someone is at the front door.
But OutSchool has thousands of videos that kids can go on and learn something, from cooking to baking to art to magic to what, it's all on there. And they're anywhere from 20 minutes to, like a week. So you can pick, a short video for the kids to learn something. I found so far the kids are loving this. So that's one of the programs that they can learn a new skill and also be creative. Chores. All kids should be doing chores. I can't stress this enough. That this is one of the ways to teach them independence and to teach them life skills. So they need to first be doing things for themselves, the younger ones. So whether it's, cleaning their room or picking up their toys or, putting their clothes in the basket, whatever it is, it's around them. But there also should be at least one thing that they're doing for the family. So if it's helping to set the table, if it's, if there's a pet, anything that can be helping that's also outside of them. Social distance with other families. I think this is really important. We have been doing this now for a long time. And if you can be socially responsible, and the kids can be socially responsible, what I had recommended at the beginning was that you do this online. So you actually eat dinner with another family, or you do an activity with another family, you do a scavenger hunt, you do a cooking with another family. And those can still go on. But also, if there is a way for you to be getting together with another family, but social distancing, we've got to have some human contact. It's critical the longer that this goes on. Do something kind for someone. So again, I think this is so important to teach kids that, we tend to say that our kids don't have enough gratitude. So this is a perfect way to start to show them that. Send a picture to a grandparent. Any way in which you can volunteer to do something that they can be involved in. So those are kind of that daily schedule. So I'm wrapping up. In these changing times, you need to give yourself a break. You are not perfect parents. You will never be perfect parents. There is no perfect parent. And you should be giving yourself more leeway right now. I've had so many parents say to me, I feel so guilty. I'm not spending enough time with them. I feel so guilty because, they're on the screens too much. That's not where you should be focusing. Yes, some of that's going to happen. It is. If you're working parents, or you're just giving your kid more screen time, but you got to cut yourself a break. My other thing is that I know all of you have heard the oxygen mask analogy in the airplane. And I used to be horrified when they used to say that I needed to put it on myself before I put it on my kids. I never understood that. But if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of someone else. You have got to make sure that you guys are doing some self-care and spending some time together as a couple. Those things are so important, because if you're not together, if you're feeling tired all the time, then you won't be there like you want to be for others, for the kids. So that's it. Hope that was helpful. I know that was a lot in a short space of time, but I'm happy to answer any questions, clarify anything.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Enoch. That was amazing, really. Thank you. I have 4 pages of notes here, so thank you. But let's take a second and a few seconds here. We have some time for questions, and even if there's a way, kind of remembering what your focus or intention or main aim was from the beginning, is there a way to even connect some of these tools or any of these tools to what you had come here for or started off with, right? So let's just see, let's open it up. Or just even what struck you or what's coming up for you, if you want to share. I guarantee you, you're not alone.
I'll share. I thought that Dr. Enoch, your talk was very helpful, and I think a good reminder of things that we need to do for ourselves and for our children, and ways to help everyone kind of get to their best self right now. So thank you very much.
So Suzanne, if you don't mind, if I put you on the spot for a second, just as we're kind of going through and winding down, if there's anything in particular that stood out that you'd be willing to share, that would be great to hear. But also, just kind of in service of closing today, I'd love to hear from everyone too. If you have questions, this is a great time. But also, like, what's a main takeaway that you're taking with you, and then one action item, even if it's just teeny, something that you want to commit to or take with you today, in the week to come, in the months to come. Sometimes, like we had talked about earlier, it's just helpful to share it and makes it even more real. So.
Okay. I would say for us, we've seen a lot of emotional dysregulation and probably getting a lot in the red zone, and trying to figure out ways to, and our daughter tends to just make sounds versus actually explaining how she's feeling. I think probably because we're spending a lot of time in the red zone at that point. So I think some of the tools that you suggested in terms of trying to get her to calm down and ways to distract her and kind of refocus her a little bit so that we can have a conversation when she's not upset and figure out better ways to help her.
Great. Thank you. Thanks so much for sharing. Suzanne and Michael, thank you.
Yeah, I was kind of nodding along there a lot too. That was something that really hit home for me. I think we've had, my daughter's 7.5, and we've had full-on tantrums, like when she was a 3-year-old, where she just cannot express herself for whatever reason. And she's actually pretty good about storming off and going to her room on her own when she gets so angry, and we're just like, take your space. I'll usually go upstairs and just quietly say, are you ready for me to come in, or do you need more time? And she'll grunt or say, come in. So I kind of get what's going on there. But it was just great to have some other tools and tips for trying to bring that down out of the red zone, to have a conversation later, or just to, get her to speak instead of grunting and stomping and door slamming. So thank you for those tips.
I'm going to interrupt for 1 minute. I'm glad to hear you guys saying, using the red. a really concrete way of explaining it to kids, using those zones and, you know, helping them to understand which zone they're in.
Great, thanks, Angie. Alexandra?
So I have a 4-year-old, so we don't really have a lot of regulation to begin with. But we have noticed those full-blown tantrums. And for us, we know that a lot of it is connected to the copious amounts of television that are required for me to work full-time. So we've sort of, I think it's a really good, helpful reminder to, we always use the phrase, I think you need to take a break. Let's find a place to calm down, take a break. And she does what other people have said. She takes herself to her room and she, within a few minutes, is usually playing. And she's learned to calm herself down through that. But I think we have to get better about getting back to using the emotion words on a regular basis and coming back and talking about what the trigger was. Why did you get so upset? What was that feeling? What did that feel like inside? And I have to get back to making her calm down jar because I keep intending to do it and never making it. But it's a good reminder.
The glitter? Is that the glitter jar?
Yeah, the glitter jar. We've been intending to do it, one, because she's 4 and she loves glitter, but 2, we have a lot of self-regulation even during the school year before the pandemic. Self-regulation is very challenging for my sensory child. So we're very aware of that. So we've already started this, but it's a very good reminder, especially because I'm feeling, yes, some of that mom guilt that I am doing this all day and she's plugged in. But I've started to try to intentionally take a half an hour, 45-minute break in the middle of the day. And we sit and read stories and we take that calm down time. So I think it's refocusing me to that intention of like, this is okay. This is what it has to be right now. It doesn't mean this is forever. And reminding me to reintegrate the vocabulary so she has the tools when she does go back to socializing. Because we're seeing biting, we're seeing hitting, but because we're her safe people. So I appreciate it.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. It's great. So yes, lots of permission, the permission to, it's okay. And it's okay for this to be messy. I love Dr. Enoch when you said that, really just giving us all that permission. This is going to be messy and hard. That's okay. So anyone else want to just kind of check in, or I also sometimes call it checking out when it's toward the end, about what you want to take with you or just anchor into. Sometimes just sharing it can be even more helpful. So I can say, Dr. Enoch, thank you so much just for all that you shared. And just one piece, kind of when we were talking earlier, I did hear this collective sense of this heightened anxiety as we're all trying to make our way as parents, not even just for our kids, but for ourselves and our families, right? But feeling that inside as we're trying to make our way through it. And I thought what you had said about the relaxing, distracting, and sensory, that could just be so helpful even for me, or, you know, for us as parents, just to, when we have to make these big decisions that we're not sure of with vacation or school or play dates or camps, or what are we gonna do when we don't have all this information. Sometimes you were reminding me that sometimes it's super helpful just to find that relaxing place, or find a distraction, or that sensory place for myself. And then it shifts, even kind of as you started talking, I was feeling that heightened anxiety that everyone was sharing, because as a parent, I'm right there too. And then that as you were talking about those pieces in particular, I could kind of feel my whole body relax. And it reminded me that, like, yes, this kind of more relaxed place would be a more helpful place potentially to try and make those decisions from, and to try and be aware of that. So I just wanted to share that I'm going to hold on to that as I move forward into the week, as I'm trying to sift through all these decisions too. So thank you all so much for joining us. This is just 1 week of a bunch coming up every Friday, 10 to 11, all the way through July 31st. We hope you'll join us again next week. We have Jamie Stepansky coming to talk with us about routines and structures. I know Dr. Enoch talked about that today a little bit, and the importance of that. So please, we hope you'll come back, share with your friends. We'd love to have you with us. And we'll be sharing this online so that people who couldn't make it here today to get all this wonderful information will still have the opportunity to. So thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Bye, everyone.